And joining me now is journalist and immigrant rights activist Jose Antonio Vargas, founder and president of Define American, and Lee Gelernt, deputy director of the ACLU Immigrant Rights Project. Thank you both for being here. JAV, I'm going to start with you, my dear, dear friend, and just get you to download for me how you are doing, how you are protecting yourself as an undocumented immigrant in this country, and how your friends and others in your community are protecting and caring for themselves.
Thank you, Joy. You know, we were nonstop texting on election night when this was happening, and we were. And I have to say, you know, people are really terrified. For my grandmother, who did not sleep on election night, 87-year-old naturalized American citizen from the Philippines, and crying, calling me, asking me what was going to happen. To students, I'm a trustee of the California State University system, right? We have estimated 10,000 undocumented students in our system. To undocumented people that I've known now for the past 13 years of starting Define American, the fear is more than palpable, right? And I think the question now really is, and you know, I was texting you today. I heard from my choir teacher, Mrs. Denny, who I've known since I was a kid. She literally texted me, "How do I protect my students now, Jose? What do I do?" And I wanted to make sure I say that because I can only imagine how many teachers, employers, co-workers, neighbors who are neighbors to undocumented immigrants all across the country, like what that conversation is like. How are you going to protect your people, right? Because mind you, undocumented immigrants, we did not vote because we cannot vote. No matter how many lies Elon Musk and the Trump, we cannot vote. I've never voted, been here 31 years. So we were on the menu in this election, but we couldn't order. And now the reality is our fate and our destiny is tied to what kind of risk American citizens, from teachers to co-workers to employers to church, people who go to the same church, what kind of risk are you going to take when the mass deportations start? And I have to say, I was watching, you know, MSNBC last night, and Lawrence O'Donnell, you know, asked the governor of Massachusetts outright, what are you going to do if the Massachusetts State Police get contacted and said, we'll do mass deportation? And the Governor Healy said, absolutely not. You know, I'm really happy as a proud Californian that Governor Newsom is calling a special legislative session on December 2nd to get together with the legislature and figure out, we have 2.2 million undocumented people in the state of California, 2.2, from nurses, doctors, farmers, all across, right? What are we going to do state by state to make sure that our people, and this to me, by the way, is a perfect opportunity. You know, when people use the word citizen a lot, I actually think citizenship is what's at stake here. For all of us who are not citizens because we were not born here or we don't have legal status, in many ways, we are exhibiting citizenship because we're still here and we want to be a part of this country, right? And that this is our home.
Lee, let's answer that question. What can people do? What should people be doing? Because among the promises that Donald Trump made to his voting base, which includes 54% of Latino men, and many of them are in mixed status families, so they're going to find out some of their abuelitas are about to go as well. And maybe that's not what they voted for, but that's what they're going to get. What should people and can people do to protect themselves? 11.7 million undocumented immigrants, 12.7 million green card holders. They're talking about denaturalizing people, meaning you have a green card and you're naturalized. They're going to take that away. And 544,690 active DACA recipients, so they know exactly where they are. What should they do?
Yeah, I mean, we need information on the ground. We are going to do what we can do in the courts, and that's going to be like what we did in the first time. We will be in court attacking policies. But people need to, one, be on the streets lawfully, of course, lawfully protesting nonviolently, but protesting policies. But I think you're hitting on a real point, both in the communities. People need to be in contact with whoever is on the ground who can reach other people, whether that's churches or legal organizations.
So you mean like have an emergency contact always that you know?
Exactly.
Right.
And,
okay.
But the other thing I think that you hit on in the beginning, which is critical to me, is sometimes people despair because the problem seems so big and they say, what can I do to fix that big problem? And so they just recede into the background. What I always tell people, especially young people, young lawyers, is do anything, one little thing. If it's tutoring an immigrant, just being nice to an immigrant, a lawyer can take one little case. Everyone needs to just do something and not despair. And I think that was critical, what you hit on. We just need to roll up our sleeves and work at it. We're not going to solve everything. We're not going to accomplish everything, but we need to take those steps.
Despair is not an option. I mean, despair is not an option.
Right.
And I'm saying this as a black person. Our whole existence in this country has been fighting against a system that did not want us here and was trying to expel us. And it's still happening today. They're sending texts to people about you sign up for the slave, get on the slave patrol and all that. But let me ask you some pragmatic things.
Yeah.
Should people, if they're a green card holder, start carrying their green card everywhere they go?
That's a good question. What we are worried about is there's going to start to be enforcement in the interior, no longer just at the border, in the interior. And we're thinking that we're going to see summary removals and people can't prove immediately. Right. So I think we are probably going to be telling people you should have documentation with you. Yeah. Especially if you've recently arrived and, you look like you may have recently arrived. Yeah. We're going to fight those policies. Yeah. But that takes a while. We don't know that we're going to win. Yeah. And so I agree that people are probably, we'll decide exactly what we're going to tell people about what documentation. But I think that may be one of the steps people need to take. And if you have employees, if you have a small business and you don't know the status of your employees, should you be asking them? Because it might frighten people if you ask them, but should construction companies and restaurants be asking them? I apologize. I'm not going to answer that question on air because it gets into very legal, tricky material, and I don't want to give people a general answer to what may require more specifics. Yeah. But your point about having emergency contacts, and we are going to try and have as many groups on the ground connect to us and other organizations. Sure. So the minute something is happening in their community, they're on the phone and saying this is happening, and we can get people there. How do people get in touch with the ACLU if they need you right away? If they need people right away? Right. So they can go to our website and email, or they can call our main number in New York, and they will connect us to immigrants' rights groups. Last word to you very quickly, Jose Antonio Vargas. Having a plan and having support, does that feel like a start? Absolutely. This is now a time to get your people. Your teachers, your mentors, your coworkers. And I love what Lee's saying. Let's get really specific. Yeah. What is going to happen at schools? What's going to happen at the place of work? Yeah. And Joy, both as journalists, now is the time. I'm really calling on our fellow journalists out there. Yes. When the Trump administration, when Stephen Miller starts talking about illegal aliens, our job as journalists is to say, these are human beings we're talking about. Yes. These are people who are part of our society. Objectivity here is a privilege. That's right. It is our job to document what is happening at this historic moment. And I promise you that is what we're going to be doing. If they are kicking indoors, they will not be doing it in the dark. They will be doing it with the lights of the readout cameras and the MSNBC cameras bright in their face. Anything they're going to do, they're going to do it in front of us. We're going to document everything y'all do. You're not going to be able to sneak and push people out of the country without us telling on you. Jose Antonio Vargas, Lee Gallant, thank you both very much. Be safe out there, AJAV. I appreciate you.